Hi, in this video training of PHP, we will be learning about PHP data types. Variables can store data of different types and different data types can do different things. PHP supports the following data types: string, integer, float, also called double, Boolean, array, object, null, and resource. Let's look at PHP string. A string is a sequence of characters like hello world. A string can be any text inside quotes. You can use single or double quotes. Let's look at the simple program. We have an x variable and y variable, both hold the string text hello world. The difference is that the x variable have the hello world and we have declared that in double quotes, but in the y we have used single quotes. But when you print them out, there is no difference between them. Let's see this in our example as we code it. So I'm going to create a project file for this. PHP data type 1.php, and going to write this program $x hello world, and then I have the y variable, and for this I'm using single quote. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo the x variable and we are going to use line break, so we have the output of y variables on a new line. Save the file, and now we are going to run it in the browser. So I have localhost rnd/php courses, and I have the PHP data types file here. You can see in the browser we have the string hello world and hello world again. So there wasn't any difference between these two except one, that is for the double quotes, that we will discuss later on in this training courses. Okay, the next thing is PHP integer. An integer data type is a non-decimal number between 21474833648 and -21474833647. Rules for integers: an integer must have at least one digit. An integer must not have a decimal point. An integer can be either positive or negative. Integers can be specified in decimal, that is base 10, hexadecimal, base 16, octal, base 8, or binary, base 2 notation. In the code below, the x variable is an integer. The PHP var dump function returns the data type and value. So let's see this, how it works. Going to create a new file, PHP data types 2, and going to declare an integer 5985, and we are going to var dump the value of x variable. So save the file and let's run it in the browser. You see that we have it on the console. It returned the full path, it returned the data type which is integer, and it returned the value within this x variable. The next data type is PHP float. A float or a floating point number is a number with a decimal point or a number in exponential form. In the code below, the x variable is a float. The PHP var dump function returns the data type and value. Okay, I'm going to create a new file for this and 10.585. Save the file and let's run it in the browser. You see now we have float and we have the value floating number that is stored in the variable x. Okay, the next data type is PHP Boolean. A Boolean represents two possible states, true or false. So you can have in this code, you can see we have $x variable true set to true and y variable set to false. Boolean are often used in conditional testing. So I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to have two variables, one is x and one is y. So let's var dump value of x. You see we have boolean and we have true, which holds in the variable x. Okay. The next data type in PHP is PHP Array. An array stores multiple values in one single variable. In the code below, cars is an array. The PHP var dump function returns data type and value. Okay, let's create an array and to say Volvo, BMW and Toyota. Okay, and let's var dump cars, save the file, go to the browser. You see we have the data type as an array and we have the size also, that is 3, because we have 3 values in this array. The first is Volvo, the second is BMW and the third is Toyota. All of these are string in nature. The next data type in PHP is PHP Object. Classes and objects are the two main aspects of object-oriented programming. A class is a template for objects and an object is an instance of a class. When the individual objects are created, they inherit all the properties and behaviors from the class. But each object will have different values for the properties. Let's assume we have a class named car. A car can have properties like model, color, etc. We can define variables like model, car, color and so on to hold the values of these properties. When the individual objects like Volvo, BMW, Toyota are created, they inherit all the properties and behaviors from the class. But each object will have different values for the properties. If you create a construct function, PHP will automatically call this function when you create an object from a class. This function is called a constructor. Let's look at this example of a class and how to create object in PHP. Okay, let's create this. Okay, I'm going to create a new file and we have a class car. Okay, then we have the color, then we have a property model, then we have a constructor, public function and construct. So this is a constructor and it accepts two parameters, one is color and the other one is model. Okay, and this function is assigning the parameter to the class variables. This model equals model. Okay, then we have another function that is called message. Okay, it will say my car is a this color and this model. Let's end it with an exclamation mark. Okay, this completes our class declaration. Let's create an object from this class. So we can say new car, and we can pass in the color of the car and model of the car. So the object is created. Now let's print out the message function in the class. I'm going to add a line break here. So we have another object red Toyota, and we can say echo my car and message. Okay, that's it. Let's run the program in the browser. You see we have the first string as my car is a black Volvo, and the second string my car is a red Toyota. These two messages are coming from this message function, which is a function of the car class. And when we created the object my car from the car class, we passed the color and model to the constructor of the car class, and these were assigned to the class variables color and model. And within the message function we wrote a string my car is a, and we concatenated the class variable color and the class variable model in that string, and we echoed that message to the output. So this is a simple and straightforward example of using class and objects. The next data type is PHP Null. A null is a special data type which can only have one value, that is null. A variable of data type null is a variable that has no value assigned to it. If a variable is created without a value, it is automatically assigned a value of null. Variables can also be emptied by setting the value to null. So let's look at a simple example. Let's create a new file for this. Okay, and let's create a variable hello world, and then assign null to this function. Let's var dump this function definition and run this program. You see we have the value of this variable as null, and this is also the data type as well. Okay, the next thing is PHP Resource. The special resource type is not an actual data type. It is the storing of a reference to functions and resources external to PHP. A common example of using the resource data type is a database call. We will be looking at resource data type further in our PHP training courses. But for this video training, we learned about different data types that are available to us in PHP. I hope that you learned and understood the concept of data types in PHP. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you next time with a new topic in PHP.